There comes a moment in every woman's life when she stands before her own reflection and realizes that no one else can teach her how to live, how to love, or how to rise except the woman within. The world may have told her what she should be, what she must wear, how she must speak, and when she must shrink to fit small rooms made for small minds. But a smart woman knows that her value is not written by others' pens. Her wisdom is carved from the storms she has survived and the quiet mornings she spent rebuilding herself. Becoming a smart woman is not about books alone, nor about beauty, nor about how well you can smile when you're breaking inside. It is about knowing the truth of who you are and standing in it with grace and power. It is about learning to think with clarity, speak with compassion, act with strength, and walk with purpose. And these lessons come not from comfort, but from courage, from 7 principles that polish the soul until it shines like a mirror for other women to see themselves in. The first principle is self-awareness. A woman who knows herself is a force the world cannot manipulate. She listens to her own heart before she listens to the noise outside. She asks herself, what do I believe in? What do I stand for? What do I want my life to mean? And when the answers come, she doesn't apologize for them. Because the smart woman does not chase approval. She chases truth. She studies her emotions not to hide them, but to understand them. She learns why she cries, why she loves, why she fears, and through that knowledge, she earns her peace. When she walks into a room, her silence speaks wisdom, because she no longer doubts her worth. The second principle is emotional intelligence, that sacred art of knowing when to speak, when to listen, and when to walk away. The smart woman doesn't fight every battle, nor does she let everyone touch her energy. She understands that some people bring storms just to feel important, and she refuses to give them thunder. She chooses her words like a poet, her reactions like a queen, and her peace like a mother protects her child. She can be gentle and firm, tender and unbreakable. And when others mistake her calm for weakness, she smiles, because she knows that power does not need to shout to be felt. The third principle is self-respect. The smart woman honors herself even when the world forgets to. She refuses to settle for half love, half truths, or half efforts. She does not beg to be seen, because she sees herself clearly. She does not lower her standards to make others comfortable. Her boundaries are not walls of pride, but gates of protection, built to guard her spirit from those who do not value it. A smart woman understands that the love she gives to herself becomes the standard for the love she receives. And when she demands respect, she does not do so with arrogance, but with the quiet certainty of one who knows she deserves it. The fourth principle is continuous growth. The smart woman never stops learning, not from schools alone, but from life. She reads, she listens, she observes. She learns from her mistakes, from the elders, from the children, from the laughter and the heartbreaks. She is always becoming, always evolving. She knows that to remain stagnant is to lose the rhythm of living. The smart woman challenges herself to think deeper, to question more, to rise higher. She learns new skills, explores new ideas, and refuses to be trapped by the limits of her past. Every day, she wakes with curiosity, and that curiosity keeps her young even when her hair turns silver. The fifth principle is resilience. The smart woman has known pain, not once but many times. She has fallen in love with the wrong people, trusted the wrong friends, believed in dreams that crumbled in her hands. Yet she rises again, each time stronger, wiser, softer. She knows that pain is not her enemy. It is her teacher. Every scar on her heart is a page of her story. Every tear she shed watered the roots of her strength. The world may try to break her, but she has learned that she bends like bamboo, never shattering, always returning to the light. She no longer asks, "Why me? But what is this teaching me?" Her resilience is quiet, but it is fierce. She endures, and in that endurance, she becomes the example others follow when they've lost hope. The sixth principle is independence, not the cold kind that rejects love, but the warm kind that knows she can stand even when no one holds her hand. The smart woman works for her own dreams. She builds her own table when she's not offered a seat. She knows that financial freedom is emotional freedom, and she refuses to depend on anyone for her survival. Yet she is not afraid to share her strength, to collaborate, to uplift others. Her independence does not make her distant, it makes her generous. Because she knows the taste of struggle, she becomes the woman who helps others rise. She owns her choices, her time, her voice, and her destiny. No one defines her life. She writes her own definition in bold letters. The seventh principle is wisdom in love. The smart woman loves deeply, but wisely. She knows that love is not about losing yourself. It is about finding someone who mirrors your growth. She no longer falls for empty promises. She looks for consistency, respect, and peace. She understands that real love is not chaos. It is calm, it is kindness, it is mutual growth. She knows that sometimes the bravest thing a woman can do is walk away from what no longer nourishes her soul. And she does so without bitterness, without regret, because she knows that endings are not always losses. Sometimes they are blessings in disguise. These 7 principles are not steps on a ladder, but circles in motion. They intertwine, each feeding the other, forming a rhythm that guides the woman who chooses to awaken. The smart woman does not arrive at her wisdom in one day. She earns it through years of observation, failure, laughter, and renewal. She forgives herself for her nada vitae, honors her past selves, and thanks every version of herself that kept her alive long enough to become who she is today. A smart woman is not afraid to be alone. She enjoys her solitude because it's where she meets her truest self. She sits in silence, sipping her tea, reading her thoughts, listening to her dreams whisper back to her. In those quiet moments, she realizes she is not waiting for anyone to rescue her. She already saved herself when she decided to believe in her own power. There will be people who misunderstand her. Some will call her proud because she no longer begs. Some will call her cold because she no longer tolerates disrespect. Some will call her selfish because she finally puts herself first. But she knows better. She knows that she cannot pour from an empty cup. She has learned that loving herself is not vanity, it is survival. And she carries that truth like a crown. The world often teaches women to shrink, to smile when they're angry, to stay quiet when they're hurt, to accept less than they deserve. But the smart woman unlearns that. She reclaims her space, her voice, her dignity. She teaches her daughters to speak with courage, her sisters to dream without fear, her friends to rise without guilt. She becomes the light that others look to when they forget their own. A smart woman does not compete with others. She celebrates them. She knows that another woman's success does not threaten her. It strengthens her. She claps for her sisters because she knows that empowerment multiplies when shared. She builds communities, not comparisons. And when she sees a woman stumbling, she does not mock her. She reaches out her hand, remembering how many hands once lifted her. She also understands balance. She knows when to hustle and when to rest, when to speak and when silence is power. She honors her body as the home of her spirit. She nourishes it with kindness, not criticism. She dresses not to impress others, but to express her soul. She carries herself with elegance because she respects herself too much to move carelessly. The smart woman is both softness and steel. She can cradle a child in one arm and carry her dreams in the other. She can cry at night and command respect in the morning. She knows that vulnerability is not weakness. It is the root of authenticity. Her tears are not shame. They are proof that she feels deeply. And feeling deeply is what makes her human. A smart woman never seeks revenge. She seeks understanding. She knows that bitterness corrodes the vessel that holds it. She chooses peace, not because the world is fair, but because she deserves inner harmony. She lets go of what she cannot control and focuses her energy on growth. She forgives, not to excuse others, but to free herself from their shadow. She honors her intuition. She knows that gut feeling, that quiet whisper, is the wisdom of generations living within her. When something feels wrong, she listens. When something feels right, she trusts it. Her intuition is her compass, and it rarely fails her. She no longer doubts it for the comfort of others. She has learned that ignoring her inner voice is the first step toward losing herself, and she refuses to do that again. The smart woman also embraces change. She knows that life moves in seasons, that nothing stays forever. She releases with grace what no longer belongs to her. She does not cling to the past, nor does she rush the future. She lives in the present moment with gratitude. She understands that growth often looks like loss at first, but she also knows that every ending carries the seed of a new beginning. She is humble yet proud. She thanks those who helped her, honors those who hurt her, and blesses the journey that shaped her. She knows she is not perfect, and she no longer needs to be. Her beauty lies in her becoming, in her constant evolution, in her courage to face herself with honesty. When she walks through life, people feel her presence before she even speaks. There is something magnetic about a woman who knows who she is. She doesn't chase attention, attention finds her. Her wisdom speaks through her eyes, her peace through her posture, her love through her laughter. The smart woman understands that being smart is not about outshining others. It is about outgrowing your old self. It's about knowing when to fight and when to forgive, when to speak up and when to walk away. It's about creating a life that feels good on the inside, not just one that looks good on the outside. She builds her happiness from the inside out. She no longer waits for someone to bring her flowers. She plants her own garden. She no longer waits for validation. She validates herself. She no longer begs for love. She becomes love itself. She is the woman who, after being broken, learned how to rebuild without bitterness. The one who learned to turn her pain into wisdom, her fear into faith, her silence into song. She is living proof that you can be soft and powerful, kind and unstoppable, humble and magnificent, all at once. And though life continues to test her, she greets every challenge with grace. She knows that storms are not meant to destroy her. They are meant to reveal her strength. She looks at her reflection, not with pride, but with gratitude. For every battle she has won, every lesson she has learned, every part of herself she has reclaimed. A smart woman knows that wisdom is not a destination. It is a lifelong journey. Each day she rises, she learns again how to love, how to grow, how to forgive, how to dream. She is her own teacher, her own healer, her own light. And through her living, she shows others that being smart is not about perfection. It is about awakening. So she walks forward, tall, radiant, unafraid, carrying within her the 7 principles that turned her from a woman who survived into a woman who leads, who loves, who shines. Self-awareness is the foundation of every smart woman's power. It begins the moment she stops living on autopilot and starts asking herself who she truly is beneath the layers of expectations, opinions, and fears. A woman who becomes aware of herself begins to see life through a clearer lens. She recognizes the patterns she repeats, the emotions she suppresses, the people she attracts, and the choices she keeps making. Self-awareness is not about judgment. It is about understanding. It is about looking at your life with honesty and saying, "This is who I have been, and this is who I am becoming." A smart woman dares to face herself without excuses. She does not hide behind distractions or illusions. She takes time to sit with her thoughts, to ask herself why she reacts the way she does, why she loves what she loves, and why certain things break her more than others. When she begins to see herself clearly, she no longer allows others to define her. The world may try to tell her she is too loud or too quiet, too ambitious or too emotional, too soft or too strong. But the woman who knows herself understands that she is exactly what she is meant to be. She stops seeking validation from the outside because she has found acceptance within. She knows that peace is not found in trying to please everyone. It is found in being true to herself. Her choices become intentional, her words more deliberate, her energy more focused. She no longer wastes her power trying to fit into spaces that were never built for her spirit. Self-awareness teaches her to listen to her inner voice, the one that whispers long before the world shouts. It helps her recognize when her intuition is speaking, when her body is tired, when her heart is asking for rest. A smart woman trusts her instincts because she has spent time getting to know them. She does not ignore red flags, whether in relationships, work, or within herself. She pays attention to what drains her and what nourishes her. She learns to differentiate between her fears and her truth, between her insecurities and her potential. The journey of self-awareness also teaches her responsibility. She learns that blaming others for her unhappiness is easy, but growth comes from accountability. She examines her own role in the life she has created. She understands that power is not about control, it is about consciousness. When she knows her weaknesses, she does not hide them, she works on them. When she discovers her strengths, she does not boast, she uses them to build. The more she understands herself, the more compassion she develops for others, because she realizes everyone is fighting unseen battles of their own. Self-awareness allows a woman to design her life with purpose. She begins to surround herself with people who reflect her values, not her fears. She spends time on things that matter, not on things that simply distract. She recognizes when she's growing and when she's shrinking, and she chooses the direction that brings her closer to her highest self. She is no longer moved by noise, because she has learned to listen to silence. Emotional control transforms pain into purpose. A smart woman learns that her emotions are powerful teachers, not enemies to be silenced. She does not suppress what she feels, she studies it. She watches her anger rise like a storm and asks what wound it came to reveal. She observes her sadness not as weakness, but as a reminder that she has loved deeply. She understands that emotions are messages, each one carrying wisdom about where she has been and what still needs healing. The woman who masters her emotions is not cold or detached, she is aware. She feels everything, but she no longer lets those feelings dictate her destiny. She knows how to pause before reacting, how to breathe before speaking, how to choose calm even when chaos surrounds her. Emotional control is not about pretending to be strong all the time. It is about knowing that real strength is gentle, composed, and steady. The smart woman realizes that the louder the world becomes, the quieter she must remain to protect her peace. She practices emotional maturity by refusing to let temporary feelings destroy permanent relationships or future possibilities. She knows that anger shouted in a moment of heat can burn bridges that took years to build. So she learns to sit with her emotions until they settle, allowing reason to rise above reaction. She gives herself permission to feel, but not permission to be ruled by those feelings. In mastering emotional control, she discovers that peace is her greatest power. She no longer reacts to everything that provokes her, because not every battle deserves her energy. She becomes selective about where she invests her emotions. She stops explaining herself to those committed to misunderstanding her. She stops giving her joy to those who thrive on her confusion. When people try to disturb her balance, she smiles and chooses silence over argument, grace over revenge. She knows that nothing weakens a woman faster than emotional exhaustion, and nothing strengthens her more than emotional discipline. This kind of control does not come overnight. It is a skill built through self-awareness, patience, and experience. The smart woman may have once been reactive, easily angered, easily broken. But over time, she learned that her peace was too expensive to be given away. She learned to pause, to reflect, to respond with intention. She learned that emotions are meant to be felt and released, not stored until they become poison. She found that forgiveness is not a gift to others, but a cleansing of her own heart. She learned to release resentment, not because others deserved peace, but because she did. A woman with emotional control radiates stability. Her presence soothes those around her, because she carries calm in her voice and patience in her eyes. She speaks when it matters, listens when it's wise, and walks away when peace demands it. Her strength is silent, her wisdom steady, her energy sacred. She becomes a mirror of balance in a world addicted to chaos, turning her emotions into instruments of growth, rather than weapons of destruction. Self-respect defines how the world treats you. A woman who honors herself teaches others how to approach her. She sets the tone for her relationships, her environment, and her destiny by the way she values herself. The smart woman understands that self-respect is not arrogance, it is awareness of worth. It is standing tall even when no one claps and saying, no. Even when it disappoints others. She no longer begs to be seen, because she already recognizes her own light. Her respect for herself becomes her armor in a world that often tries to diminish it. She carries herself with quiet dignity, and her presence commands regard without a single word being spoken. Self-respect is born from boundaries. It is knowing what she will and will not accept. It is refusing to let anyone play with her time, her body, her energy, or her peace. A smart woman doesn't tolerate disrespect just because she loves someone. She understands that love without respect is poison disguised as passion. When someone disrespects her, she doesn't argue or plead, she distances herself. She no longer explains her worth to those who cannot see it. She simply moves where she is valued. The world may call her difficult, but she knows she is simply protecting her spirit. A woman with self-respect is not impressed by empty promises or shallow praise. She knows that validation from others fades as quickly as it comes. She doesn't dress, speak, or act to please the crowd. She does so to reflect her authenticity. Her confidence doesn't depend on compliments, it's rooted in her principles. She respects her body enough to take care of it, her mind enough to feed it with wisdom, and her heart enough to guard it from manipulation. She understands that not everyone deserves access to her, because not everyone comes with pure intentions. The smart woman with self-respect understands that saying no is an act of love toward herself. She refuses to be overextended, undervalued, or overlooked. She no longer sacrifices her peace to maintain connections that drain her. She chooses solitude over company that dishonors her. She knows that peace without respect is fragile, and love without boundaries is chaos. So she draws lines not out of pride, but out of protection for her spirit. She knows that people may not always like her firmness, but they will always remember it. Her self-respect becomes the foundation upon which her confidence grows. It allows her to walk into any space knowing she belongs there, not because others allow her in, but because she allows herself. She speaks truth even when it's uncomfortable, stands tall even when she's alone, and loves herself enough to let go of what doesn't serve her. Her presence becomes magnetic because she no longer chases. She attracts. She has learned that the way she respects herself sets the standard for every relationship she has, whether personal or professional. She has stopped trying to earn love through sacrifice and started earning peace through self-worth. Growth begins when comfort ends. A smart woman understands that the life she dreams of will never bloom in the soil of ease. She realizes that comfort zones, while safe and familiar, are also silent prisons that keep her from discovering her potential. Growth demands movement, risk, and courage. It asks her to let go of what feels certain and step into the unknown. She learns that transformation does not come wrapped in softness. It arrives disguised as challenges, failures, and uncomfortable truths. Every time she chooses courage over comfort, she stretches her soul a little further, uncovering parts of herself she didn't know existed. The woman who chooses growth learns to embrace discomfort as a companion, not an enemy. She stops fearing failure because she understands that every mistake carries a lesson. She sees obstacles not as barriers but as bridges to wisdom. When life tests her, she no longer asks, "Why me?" but "What is this teaching me?" That shift in mindset becomes her power. She understands that growth is not a straight path. It is a series of rises and falls, of learning and unlearning. She allows herself to evolve even when the process is painful, because she knows that pain often precedes progress. To grow, she must also release. She lets go of people who keep her small, habits that steal her time, and fears that limit her vision. She recognizes that some relationships and patterns exist only to teach her strength. Once the lesson is learned, she no longer clings to them. Growth asks her to stand alone at times, to rebuild her confidence, and to trust that solitude can be sacred. It teaches her that healing is not about returning to who she was, but becoming who she was meant to be. The smart woman invests in her own evolution. She reads, listens, travels, and explores. She surrounds herself with people who challenge her, not those who flatter her. She asks questions, seeks wisdom, and remains humble enough to admit she doesn't know everything. She understands that the smartest minds are not the loudest, but the most curious. Each day becomes a classroom, and she approaches life as both student and teacher. Growth is her lifelong pursuit, not a seasonal project. In the pursuit of growth, she develops resilience. She learns to adapt, to change direction when needed, and to rebuild when life falls apart. She stops fearing the unknown because she has walked through darkness before and found her light again. Her strength becomes quiet and unshakable, born not from what was easy, but from what she overcame. Growth teaches her that comfort is temporary, but evolution is eternal. She becomes a woman who no longer hides from challenges, but welcomes them as opportunities to rise higher. She learns to celebrate her progress, however small, knowing that each step forward, however uncertain, brings her closer to the life she was destined to create. Independence is the language of inner freedom. A smart woman knows that true independence is not just about living alone or earning her own money. It is about thinking for herself, deciding for herself, and standing by those decisions with dignity. It is the quiet power of knowing that her worth is not tied to anyone's approval or support. She learns to build her own foundation so that no storm can shake her. Independence begins in the mind, when she realizes that her happiness cannot be outsourced and her peace cannot be borrowed. It is a declaration that she is capable of creating, managing, and sustaining her own life. The smart woman learns that independence requires discipline. It asks her to take responsibility for her choices and to work for what she desires. She stops waiting for someone to come and fix her life. She becomes the solution herself. She educates herself, saves her money, invests her time wisely, and builds skills that allow her to stand tall in any situation. She understands that dependence breeds fear, while independence nurtures confidence. She becomes the woman who can support herself emotionally, financially, and spiritually, without losing her softness or compassion. Independence does not make her hard or unreachable. It makes her generous. Because she knows how it feels to carry herself, she becomes a pillar others can lean on. She helps, not because she needs validation, but because she remembers the times she had to climb alone. Yet she also knows the difference between helping and being used. Her independence teaches her balance. How to give without depleting herself, how to love without losing herself, and how to care without being consumed. She no longer fears being alone because solitude has become her sanctuary, not her sentence. The woman who values independence also values boundaries. She doesn't allow anyone to control her emotions, her time, or her direction. She listens to advice but makes her own choices. She knows that control disguised as love is still control. Her independence gives her the courage to walk away from situations that dim her light. She chooses people who respect her autonomy, not those who try to dominate it. When she loves freely, not from need, but from wholeness. Independence gives her voice strength. She speaks her truth even when it shakes. She pursues dreams that others think impossible, simply because she believes in her own ability. She understands that dependence keeps her safe but small, while independence makes her brave and boundless. She does not fear failure, because she knows she can always rebuild from within. Her sense of self-reliance becomes the wind beneath her confidence. She moves through the world knowing that she owes no one her silence, her limits, or her wings. She rises each morning with the peace that comes from self-trust, guided by the power of her own choices and the freedom of her own spirit. Wisdom in love means choosing peace over chaos. A smart woman understands that love is not measured by how much she endures, but by how deeply she grows. She no longer confuses pain with passion or struggle with strength. She learns that love is not meant to drain her. It is meant to elevate her. She knows that love should not feel like walking on eggshells or begging for crumbs of affection. True love is gentle, steady, and kind. It allows her to rest, not to wrestle. It allows her to be fully herself without fear of judgment or rejection. A wise woman in love has learned from heartbreak, from betrayal, from disappointment, and from the quiet ache of giving too much to those who gave too little. Through those lessons, she discovers that love must begin within. Before she can love anyone else with honesty, she must first fall in love with herself. Not in vanity, but in acceptance. She learns to admire her scars, to forgive her mistakes, to cherish her growth. She becomes her own companion, her own comfort, her own safe place. This inner love is not dependent on appearance or success. It is rooted in the awareness that she is enough as she is. When she fills herself with love, she stops searching for it in the wrong places. She stops trying to convince anyone to choose her, because she has already chosen herself. She realizes that the right love will never require her to beg, to chase, or to shrink. The smart woman with wisdom and love understands that relationships are reflections of the self. If she does not respect herself, she will attract those who won't respect her either. If she is uncertain of her worth, she will settle for less than she deserves. So she heals the wounds that made her believe love must hurt. She redefines love not as dependency but as partnership, not as possession but as mutual growth. She no longer views love as a rescue, but as a journey shared between two whole individuals. She knows that two broken souls cannot complete each other. They can only heal alongside one another when both are ready to rise. Wisdom in love also teaches her discernment. She no longer falls for words alone. She watches actions. She no longer confuses attention for affection or desire for devotion. She has learned that consistency is the true language of love. When someone's actions align with their words, when they show up with respect, honesty, and care, she recognizes it as real. But when someone brings chaos, she no longer romanticizes it. She understands that love that costs her peace is too expensive. She does not stay where her heart must constantly prove its worth. She does not confuse being wanted with being valued. A wise woman in love knows the importance of boundaries. She realizes that love does not mean losing herself. It means protecting her energy even in closeness. It means being open yet grounded, giving yet guarded with her peace. She does not pour from an empty heart. She understands that her well-being is not selfish, it is sacred. She no longer allows guilt to keep her in places where she is not respected. When love becomes toxic, she steps away with grace, not anger. She leaves quietly, carrying her lessons and her dignity. Wisdom in love also brings patience. She no longer rushes to find love or forces it to fit into timelines. She trusts divine timing, knowing that what is meant for her will not pass her by. She learns to wait for love that feels like home, not like a battlefield. She fills her time with growth, creativity, and purpose, trusting that love will find her when she is ready to receive it. This patience gives her serenity. She stops chasing potential and starts cherishing presence. When love comes, it will not feel like struggle. It will feel like ease. She also learns that love is not only romantic. It exists in friendship, in family, in community, and in her connection to life itself. She learns to express love through kindness, through patience, through compassion. She understands that every act of love, a smile, a prayer, a helping hand, carries healing energy. Her love becomes a light that softens the world around her. Because she has known darkness, she knows how precious the light is. Her love, therefore, becomes her legacy, not her weakness. Wisdom in love teaches her forgiveness, not because others always deserve it, but because she deserves peace. She learns that holding on to resentment is like carrying fire in her own hands. She lets go not to excuse the past, but to free herself from it. She no longer seeks closure from others. She gives it to herself. She learns that forgiveness does not mean reconciliation. It means choosing her sanity over her bitterness. With every release, she becomes lighter, stronger, and more open to genuine love when it comes again. She understands that true love challenges her to grow, not to shrink. The right partner will not compete with her light, but celebrate it. They will not feel threatened by her strength, but inspired by it. In their presence, she will feel seen, not compared, valued, not used. Wisdom allows her to distinguish between those who come to consume her energy and those who come to complement it. When she finds love rooted in mutual respect, she nurtures it with tenderness, honesty, and gratitude. She knows that love is not sustained by intensity but by intention. The daily choice to be kind, to communicate, to care. When she loves deeply but never blindly. Her love no longer makes her lose herself. It makes her more herself. She can stand beside someone without losing her individuality, give without being emptied, and commit without being confined. Her love is free, mature, and fearless. It allows her to express herself fully, to dream loudly, to live authentically. She no longer needs validation because love is no longer her escape. It is her reflection. Wisdom in love also means loving through understanding, not control. She knows that people grow at different paces and that real connection requires patience. She learns to communicate, not to win arguments, but to build bridges. She listens not to reply, but to understand. Her love language becomes presence, not possession. She learns that love without respect is shallow, and love without freedom is a cage. So she gives her love wings, and in doing so, keeps it alive. Even in heartbreak, she carries herself with grace. She no longer views loss as failure, but as a lesson in self-discovery. She knows that every heartbreak refined her, every ending redirected her. She does not close her heart in fear, she opens it with wisdom. She understands that the purpose of love is not always forever. Sometimes it's transformation. Each connection taught her something about who she is and what she deserves. A smart woman learns to love with balance. She can give deeply but still protect her soul. She can be romantic but still rational. She can be devoted but never desperate. Her wisdom in love makes her both tender and strong. She understands that love is a sacred exchange of energy, not ownership, not control, not illusion. She gives love freely, but never at the expense of her peace. When she finally reaches this understanding, she carries love differently. It is no longer something she seeks to complete her. It is something she shares because she is already whole. She radiates love through her words, her actions, her presence. Her heart becomes a sanctuary of peace, her love a reflection of strength. She is unafraid to love again because she knows that love, when guided by wisdom, will always lead her closer to freedom, not further from it.